Reviewer channel episode, and today it is a live stream, so it's your chance to put to me any questions that you would like answering, and it will be a part kind of talking about royal stories that I've already got set, and also a question and answer session. So I will try and answer as many as I can. It's very, very difficult to read absolutely everything and answer everything, so do bear with me. There has been so much royal news going out, in particular about Prince Harry. So I do apologise for the very, very heavy Harry and Meghan news, because that is really all that is out there at this present time. Many of the working royals have not returned to full-time duties from the Christmas break, although we have seen some of them break cover for things like King Charles going to church on Sunday. And today we've actually seen photographs emerging of the Princess of Wales emerging and driving her own Audi vehicle. So we'll get to that in a moment, but I just want to say hello and welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for watching the videos and watching the live chats. I am wearing the new piece of jewelry that I unboxed in yesterday's video. It is, of course, the Japanese pearl choker, and this is the choker that the Queen acquired the pearls as a gift from Japan, and then she had the jeweler Garrod, I think, make this kind of clasp and then had it all made into a necklace, which she debuted in the 1980s. Then she kind of loaned it on long-term loan to Diana, and then now the Princess of Wales has been wearing it as well. She wore it most notably to the funeral of the Duke of Edinburgh and, of course, the Queen, the late Queen. So there we have that. I'm also wearing the Prince Edward brooch replica. This was actually created by Prince Albert for Queen Victoria. I do believe it was a wedding gift, I do believe. I am wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, one of the Queen's favourite tiaras, and of course Queen Mary's before her as well, because it is a little bit more lightweight, but also packs a bit of a punch. And I am wearing the Princess Diana aquamarine cocktail ring replica. I've teamed it with my own engagement ring, but it fits quite nicely, actually. So there we go, that's the replica. Meghan, of course, now has this, but I prefer to think of it more as Diana's, because it originated from Diana. So there we go. Right, so I can see people dropping in, so please do leave a comment. Thank you to everyone. Right, first news story of the day. This is a live chat, and I am recovering from a cold over Christmas. But screen, we'll just kind of turn the screen around and show you. So there's Catherine. Now, that's the only photo that we get. She's looking rather pensive. I mean, I wouldn't exactly say she looks particularly happy. Her vehicle, so she's concentrating. She has a concentrating face on. I think she's looking rather lovely. Just look at that slightly raised eyebrow. I do think that, I think she's looking rather good, actually. Her hair is looking, I know it's a grainy photograph. It's a grainy paparazzi photograph. But her hair is looking very sleek and gorgeous. She's wearing what appears to be a camel or a caramel coat. Got that brown scarf. I think she's got little pearl earrings in. Minimal makeup. She's not overly made up on this occasion. Her eyebrows look really, really, really good. As they say in certain parts of the world, they look on fleek. So eyebrows on fleek. And yeah, I just think she looks really natural. And there she is. She's broken cover amidst all the barrage of what's coming over from Montecito. So please let me know what you think about the lovely Catherine. DS says, love the jewels. Thank you. Rachel's watching from San Antonio in Texas. Thank you, Lady Londinium. Hello to everyone, to be honest. Loving the pearls. Thank you. Right, so the next story that I kind of want to show you, because there isn't much on Kate, unfortunately, today. So now that Harry's book has been out for over a day now, obviously in English this time, rather than the journalists having to pick over it in Spanish, they've been doing a little bit of fact-checking, and it appears that Prince Harry's memory has not been serving him too well. Not just his memory, but just the research of the whole book. There are just some complete inaccuracies in there that perhaps should have been picked up by the publisher, or Harry perhaps shouldn't have even gone there in the first place. So I'm going to read a little bit of an article that kind of outlines these inaccuracies, and we'll talk about it as we normally do. So, fresh questions have been raised over the accuracy of Prince Harry's exclusive memoir. In Spare, the Duke writes glowingly of his great, 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 great grandfather, King Henry VI, who founded Eton College and died in 1471, despite the fact his alleged ancestors' direct lineage ended after his son. So Edward VI had a son who passed away. Edward VI didn't have any more children. So therefore, it is impossible for Henry VI to be Harry's great, 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 great grandfather. What actually, I suppose he would be is, an uncle so many times removed. Because obviously it would have then the crown would have then gone back up the line and then gone down. So no, he absolutely is not. The actual direct quote from the book is, though Henry was my great 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 grandfather, and though I was sorry for his passing and for whatever pain it had caused those who loved him, I wasn't keen on mourning the man around the clock. Any boy might balk at taking part in a never-ending funeral. Okay, so again, the book is definitely 100% claimed. There's no way that people can say that his words have been twisted or taken out of context. He's saying that he is his great 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 grandfather, and that is definitely not the case. And by the way, here is the man of which we speak. I mean, I suppose he does look a little bit, but anyway, that have claimed, of course, Random House have said that his memoir has become the fastest selling non-fiction book ever, with 400,000 hardback, ebook, and audio format copies. And that's a claim by Transworld Penguin Random House. We also need to wait and see what, of course, the physical book sales are, because those won't clock through until next week, I do believe. Okay, let's go back up and read some more of the claims. Oh yes, he also said that he was given an Xbox when he was 13, and it didn't come out until I think four or something years later. So he definitely didn't get that right. Also, he said he learned of the Queen Mother's death whilst he was on a phone call whilst he was at Eton. Photographs have emerged from the time he was actually on a skiing holiday with his brother and Prince Charles, as he was then the Prince of Wales. And although that photograph wasn't taken on the day the Queen Mother passed away, records show that King Charles didn't fly back until I think it was the day after the Queen Mother passed away. So they were definitely on a skiing holiday during that time. So Harry's memory seems seems very, very much to be failing him. My goodness. So yes, perhaps the book should be rearranged. Perhaps it should actually be put in the fiction section instead of non-fiction. Roshonda says if Netflix wants to make their money back, they should do a documentary on all the inconsistencies in the book, the interviews, etc. If they were being diligent, then I suppose yes, they would. Also, Harry has said that he's been watching The Crown as well. Of course, The Crown famously making money for Netflix off the back of his own family. So yes, perhaps Netflix should do a little a deep dive into fact checking. Yes, there is that Plantagenet look. Little Annie says non-fiction is stretching it a bit. Lady Londinian says, I don't get it. Harry must think people are stupid and don't fact check. Well, that's where we are. That is where we are. James Medford says Charles was probably upset that he wasn't at his grandmother's bedside when she passed. Yes, I mean, he probably was. They had a very, very close relationship and bond. I mean, Harry recalls memories of being with the Queen Mother. So she played a very important part in Charles's life and, of course, his children's lives. Not so much so Princess Margaret, because Harry recalls that one Christmas she presented him with a biro pen, which is kind of similar to this, with a rubber fish on the top. Now, we know that the royal family don't necessarily give each other, lavish gifts at Christmas. They do prefer a bit of a joke present. So perhaps that's what he was referring to. But he didn't go as far as to say, oh, we normally give each other some joke presents. Although perhaps he was expecting a little bit more than a biro. But anyway, he does also go on to say that perhaps he shares a lot more in common with Princess Margaret than he thought at the time, and that perhaps he should have spent more time with her because they had quite a lot in common, being, his grandmother being the heir and Margaret being the spare. And of course, it's important to remember as well, actually, who the spare is at the moment. So in terms of William's children, because the rules were changed, um, around males inheriting over elder sisters, Princess Charlotte is actually the heir. No, is actually the spare to George being the heir in terms of William's lineage. So I do wonder what steps William and Catherine are taking to make sure that Charlotte doesn't almost feel the same way perhaps that Prince Andrew felt at being the spare, and of course, Prince Harry is now indicating that he felt at being the spare. However, I get the impression that Charlotte's a bit of a tough cookie. I don't know. I get a little bit of the Princess Anne's about Charlotte. I think she's going to have that kind of robust Duke of Edinburgh, DNA going into her, and I do think she's a bit of a tough cookie. I think she is destined to be the Princess Royal, of course, after Anne. I don't believe all this talk about making her the Duchess of Edinburgh. I really don't think that. I still am convinced that that is going to be given to the Earl of Wessex, Prince Edward, perhaps at a memorable occasion for him, perhaps even before the coronation. I don't know. Oh, the coronation as well. So apparently Harry has been invited to the coronation, but rules, or I suppose protocol, has been changed so that we expect that only Prince William, the Prince of Wales, of course, the Duke of Cambridge as well, and of course the Duke of Cornwall, because he's a double duke. He will perhaps be the only one taking the oath, swearing allegiance to the king, which means that Edward, uh, Prince Andrew, the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, will not necessarily have a formal role to play in the coronation, plus all the other dukes and earls and notability of the realm. So perhaps that is a way that the coronation has been stripped back. Because remember, we've got to get away from a 3-hour service down to an hour. So perhaps, taking out all of those dukes and earls, going up to the king and kneeling before him and swearing of being, the liege man of life and limb, as we saw at the Queen's coronation. Perhaps that is how they're actually going to cut a lot of the time back. So effectively, Harry and other dukes have been cut from the ceremony. So there isn't, other than supporting his family, there isn't necessarily a need for Harry to go to the coronation. Also, I mean, I suppose, Charles was at the coronation when he was young, but it is a lot for young children to sit through. So Archie and Lilibet probably wouldn't attend it anyway, although the ceremony has been cut. But it is a really, really big occasion. And if children start to play up, then, but the Princess of Wales has a little bit of a handsful with Prince Louis, we've seen from time to time. So, is there necessarily a need for them to come over? And like I said before, with an open invitation to come to these sorts of big public set piece royal events, it very much puts the ball in Harry and Meghan's court. What will they do? If they come, then they will be accused of seeking the limelight, trying to capitalize off the backs of the royal family, trying to make more money, trying to be seen in the right place at the right time so they can go back to the US and sell it. If they don't go, they will be seen as snubbing their family, snubbing the country, snubbing the institution of monarchy. So they are in between a rock and a hard place when it comes to attending the coronation. Do they? Don't they? Will they make some claim like they are busy with work? Will they use Archie's birthday as an excuse not to go? Even though I think it would be really cool to attend a coronation on your birthday. I think that would be a really amazing thing to have as a memory. But no, they are between a rock and a hard place. I think King Charles and the Prince of Wales have definitely played a really good move. If you were thinking of this like a game of chess, it's almost like checkmate. I mean, they have literally checkmated. Raj Wrench says they will be there with their pocketbooks open. Well, hopefully, if they do attend, they'll be searched for hidden cameras, recording devices, all kinds of things. Anna says the pomp and immersion in tradition is craved. I think at a time of austerity, and don't forget, we had the previous coronation and the previous Queen's wedding as well, at times of austerity. Of course, you know, sort of post-war era, and of course that's kind of pre-war. And yeah, basically, I think there is a need to have a little bit of this pomp and glamour to kind of lighten up these really dark times. And in the past, kind of set piece royal events such as this has managed to bring the country together, even if it's just for one day. But it's not just one day; it's all the build up to it, and everyone can kind of come together. There, you know, hopefully there'll be street parties and people really get into the mood of it. You know, a coronation really captures the mood of a nation, and I'm hoping that that is what it will do. James Medford says, if you are in the line of succession, you are a spare. Yes, you are, because there is a line, and obviously, if anything happens to those people above the line, above your place in the line, then you technically could be the next monarch. However, I think this kind of notion of the heir and the spare within the very direct core of the lineage, i.e., Prince Charles's direct descendants, William and Harry, and of course now it shifts to Prince William's with George and Charlotte, and to a certain extent Louis as well. Lady Buckingham says, I think Charlotte will be very much like Anne. I'm just getting a touch of the Princess Anne's. And of course, we've seen exactly the same kind of with Zara Tyndall's children as well. I've definitely seen a touch of the Princess Anne's there going on. Denise says, did he have a ghost writer, a good writer, and their editor would have fact-checked better? Yes, there was a ghost writer, apparently rumored to have been paid up to $1 million. But even then, apparently the publisher had to go through the transcript and take out Americanisms such as awesome and all these kind of words that Harry would never use. Also, there was, I haven't got it in front of me, so I can't read it, but I'll tell you about it. I saw a picture of an actual excerpt from the book, so quite a big lengthy piece, and there was a lot of language kind of inserted that really did not sound anything like what Harry would use in terms of his language. It's almost as if somebody had gone through the manuscript and added their own notes in, and then that was kind of written up. Now, I'm not going to speculate as to who that somebody might be, but it might be a certain somebody who can sing to seals and get them to respond. So it does look like it's been sort of raked over, and there are bits of it that look like it wasn't even the ghostwriter. It looks like somebody's inserted like post-it notes, and then it's been added in extra. I'm just saying that's what it looked like because I've read it. EZLZZ, I'm going to call you E, says you managed to handle it without the hateful bias. Prince Harry is everything he's doing is not sane. I think what's come out of all of this, and I think it is really important to note, is that Harry doesn't seem well. I think all of this kind of wellness and mental health journey that he's been on doesn't necessarily seem to have got him to a place where he is happy and settled and secure. Because if you are in a place like he claims that he claims he's happy in America with his new life that he's made for him. He claims, that he had to flee the UK because he didn't feel safe. All these different things. If you are really, truly, deeply happy with the place in your life where you are mentally, physically, where you're living, everything about your life, you would not be raking over all the things that made you deeply unhappy, then packaging it in a nice little box ready to sell to the highest bidder to then try and inflict pain and suffering on the people that are actually your family. To me, that doesn't make any kind of sense. I do get that looking back can be quite a cathartic experience. Many people, many um, musical song artists, use their experiences to write their songs, and it does help them be very cathartic. But those people are not members of an institution. And one thing that Harry does need to accept is that, yes, they are his family, but they are also an institution representing a whole country. And he had a very valued place within that, despite what he thinks. He was given exactly the same things and life experiences that William was. They were brought up by the same parents, they went through the same divorce process with their parents. They both lost their mother. They both went to the same schools. They were both brought up by the same single parent father post their mother's death. Um, they both entered into public service. They both eventually married. They were both offered very similar homes. Of course, William and Catherine lived in Nottingham Cottage before Harry and Meghan. Harry complains about being in a basement apartment. Then, as soon as William and Catherine got married, moved into apartment 1A in Kensington Palace, Harry then upgraded and went into Nottingham Cottage. William and Catherine spent many happy years there. Yes, it's not grand. And there's a story where Harry claims in the book that he was embarrassed by showing Meghan his home. He shouldn't be embarrassed. He should have been very proud that the institution that his look of being born into a great family and a great institution actually gave him a property to live in at the age that he was at. Most people, a lot of people don't have that. And then, as soon as he married Meghan, there was talk about where he should live. Turns out the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester actually offered to move out of the apartment right next door to William and Catherine's, the same size, not the same shape, but it was the same size apartment where they'd spent all their happy years. Harry and Meghan said no because of this feud. They wanted to move far away from William and Catherine, so they chose Frogmore. So I always think now that actually it was always meant that Meghan and Harry would have two homes, that they would have the retreat in Windsor. I've always felt that Frogmore Cottage was always supposed to be the retreat rather than the main home. So just like William and Catherine have Anmer Hall, Meghan and Harry could have had Frogmore Cottage as their escape, their bolt hole away from London. And they could have also had a big, huge apartment like William and Catherine, furnished with things from the royal collection, just like William and Catherine. So there was no need to be jealous. They had the same life experiences. Harry was given very plum roles within the institution. He was given Commonwealth roles, very meaty Commonwealth roles. He was allowed more than William to serve in the armed forces. William wasn't allowed to because he was the heir. So as the spare, Harry had a lot more opportunity than William. Um, Meghan and Harry went on foreign tours, the same as William and Catherine. Very successful tours. In fact, the tour that kind of broke the camel's back was actually a very successful tour, the Australasia tour. It was very successful. All the stories coming back from the media were all positive. I remember at the time, I was here, I was reporting on it. Everything was positive. Perhaps Harry and Meghan should have seen that as a turning point in the media. Perhaps they should have seen that as being, okay, the media perhaps has stopped with a lot of the negative stories about us and they're moving on. So Harry has had, my point being, after all that long ramble, is that Harry's had the same opportunities, the same life as William, but yet here we are with two very different ways of interpreting it. I think that does come from perhaps Harry being just those few years younger when Diana passed away. I think Harry still is not fixed, he still is not mended. Everything that he's doing now is a humongous cry for help. And I can't help but, even though I don't like what he's doing, I can't help but feel compassion for him. He's a very troubled individual and he really does need some kind of really professional help. None of this kind of new agey stuff. I mean, apparently they're going to release a wellness book as part of this 4-book deal. Who is going to buy a wellness book from them when they are clearly not well? In fact, verging on the unhinged at the moment. So yes, I think he needs help. I think all of this is a cry for help. I do have compassion for him, and everything that he has been through with regards to losing his mother will have affected him deeply. And, I can only even begin to imagine how horrendous that has been throughout his life. That is the core of all of this. And I don't know how that is going to be resolved, but he needs further help. And I don't think removing yourself from the country that gave you everything, and you in turn were on a path to give everything back to, is the right way to do it. Everyone else in that family is existing within it and finding their own path through. And I think, given more time, Harry and Meghan could have also done the same thing. I think the Australasia tour was a turning point. Like I said, it was all positive. There were no negative stories coming out. I was there. I mean, I wasn't physically in Australasia on the tour, but I was here and I was reporting on all of this. Bearing in mind, I was probably the first person on YouTube to be reporting like this about the royal family. I've been here all the way through Harry and Meghan's relationship, all of their press struggles, and I could see that there was a turning point in Australasia. I think they should have stuck it out that little bit longer. Denise says, trouble soul for sure, which he says it's all about what Harry and Meghan want. They don't really seem to be looking at the other side very well. I mean, Harry kind of sees, I think, this book as his chance to correct the narrative or to put his side out. But he knows full well that the other side isn't going to have a comeback against now what he is putting out, which I do believe is the best way to be. I think the royal family do have power in their silence, and I think they're using it and executing it very, very well. Karen says, you think old Harry has burned his bridges, no going back now. All the chit chat will not change what now he has done. No, it won't change what's been done. Like I say, I think, however, the public mood, certainly in the UK, I don't know about other places around the world, but in the UK, it hasn't gone down very well. People don't necessarily view him in a positive light for what he's done. A lot of the revelations that have come out, people think should be private. Yes, it's interesting to know them. I'm not going to lie. Opening up the newspapers and the internet every day and seeing these revelations, it's fun to know them. But I didn't need to know them. Nobody needed to know them. All it goes to show me is that there was a lot more work behind the scenes to be done privately to mend relationships. I hope one day that relationships can be mended. It's not nice to have somebody, a family member, feeling that they are cast aside, even if they're wrong in their assumptions. The fact that he feels that way, even though he might be wrong on that, it's not nice. It's not a nice place to be. So I do hope for reconciliation, but I can't see that happening anytime soon whilst he's doing this and whilst he's making all this money off the back of his family. Why he couldn't sort things out privately, and just get on. There are so many money making opportunities that he could do in the USA. They could do clothing lines. Meghan can continue writing children's stories, voiceovers, acting. They could have a production company producing things that aren't about the royal family and any royal family connections. There's all the charity work they can do. They could do after dinner speeches. There are so many things that they could do on a much more quiet level. One of the broadsides that they aim at the royal family is that other members of the royal family make money. Well, yes, Prince Michael of Kent has a consultancy business. You don't hear much about that. It's pretty boring and nondescript. Eugenie and Beatrice have had jobs in art galleries and things like that, pretty nondescript. Zara Tyndall, she does sports sponsorships and promotions and endorsements, but not necessarily in this country. She does a lot overseas. She's been overseas, I think, at the Paddy Power Australian something or other to do with horses. But you don't hear a lot about it because it's not about their family, so to speak, and it's not salacious in any kind of way. They are earning money the best way they know how on a low key scale. And I think Harry and Meghan, if they'd have just left, people could have accepted that that was what they wanted to do, that they didn't feel that that the way they wanted to operate could work within the institution. I think people could accept that, but then move on and just work without selling out your family. And of course, we're only talking here about one side of their family. We haven't spoken about the Markles. They have been left largely untouched. Perhaps that side of things is going to be tackled when the long rumored but not confirmed book of Meghan might be released. Perhaps she will tackle her own family issues. And I think when you've got two kind of sides of your family, that you've fallen out with, there comes a point when you have to ask yourself, what is the common denominator? And then within that comes this kind of sense of pitting yourself as a victim. It's this kind of victimhood, thing that they're putting on themselves. If you're falling out with different families, left, right, and centre, who has the issue? Who is the problem with? Steve says, yes, the York girls have their jobs, but they also support the senior working royals and engagements when possible. They have never been classed even as part-time working royals. Occasionally, they have accompanied the Queen. Perhaps they've attended a garden party, or I think some of the Easter celebrations we saw them at. But it was not even part-time working royals. It's very few and far between. And I don't think that is what Harry was asking for when he said he wanted to move away and still support the monarchy and the Commonwealth. I think he wanted, it sounded to me from the initial statement he made when he left, that he wanted a very much kind of half in, half out role, half your time in the UK, half your time in the USA. What the York princesses do is not even that. Like, it's literally maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And I don't think it would have been right to have claimed taxpayer funded protection, not paid back the money on Frogmore House, all of those kinds of things. When you're only doing maybe 2 or 3 engagements a year, that's not even part time working. Right, next, people are already talking about it. We have the is it the Colbert interview? I haven't seen it, so to be honest, I'm probably unlikely to. I've had enough at this point, to be quite honest. But the quotes that have come back have been very, very much that Harry has kind of mocked the monarchy. Apparently, there were trumpeters dressed up in mock royal kind of regalia and uniforms, and he joked that he thought it was for him, but no, it was for Tom Hanks. All kinds of things. They were drinking tequila. And it was pre-taped as well. So people are also saying that perhaps the audience was hand-picked as well, because they say that it was recorded, pre-recorded for kind of security reasons. So it only goes to show, I think, that the audience were handpicked, because otherwise, what's the point? They may as well have just had a live audience that was a normal audience without pre-recording it. Do you see what I mean? So I think very, very much so, the audience was kind of handpicked as well. It was all very, very staged. I'm just trying to read through to see. Um, they spoke again about William and Harry had eaten, even though Harry had said in the book that he understood now, because of what Archie and Lilibet's relationship, that he understands why William didn't pay him much attention. Um, so, yeah, then there was all the things about the commemorative plates, a joke at the expense of Harry and the other royals' weddings and anniversaries, marked with limited edition tableware and crockery. And then at a further joke, Colbert says, stock up on corgis and steal a priceless cultural treasure from one of your colonies, because the late show is going imperial. And of course, that's just a complete barbed insult. I mean, that's one of the things as a Brit that I can say. A lot of what Harry's saying and doing is insulting. It's insulting to our country. It's like somebody going to another country. It's like an American going to another country and mocking the country that gave you that platform and gave you the ability to earn the money to be able to move away, and then you're just kind of bombarding them and kind of mocking the culture and all that kind of thing. So I don't think that was very, very nice. Harry writes that it was Granny's. Oh, talking about the ornament. For some reason, it goes into the article rambles on into the ornament of the Queen, the Christmas tree ornament. Apparently, Archie knocked it off and it broke. So yes, I care not to watch that one. Um, Stephen says Harry is acting like a child, speaking from a child's perspective, because that's where I think he is stuck in his head. What we basically have is a huge man-child. But I can understand why he would have that kind of stilted emotions. He had a very traumatic experience at age 12, 13, and he hasn't been able to move on from that. He already said he's blocked out huge sections of kind of post Diana's death. No, sorry, pre Diana's death. Um, and he has this huge fascination with the press and probably Googles everything. I mean, who knows? In the early days, he may have even watched my videos, because he recounted something in the book that actually I made a whole video on, and no one had made a video on it at the time. And that was about about Wallace and Edward, and how perhaps there was a bit of a slight from the Queen in the positions in which they were buried at Frogmore. I made a whole video on that years and years and years ago, and perhaps Harry saw it. Now, of course, going back to that, there was also a claim that that Edward was happy with the positions where they were under the tree at Frogmore. But I always sensed that perhaps there could be a little bit more to it than that, sort of having them away from all the other family members. But anyway, I made a video on that, so it just kind of goes to show perhaps Harry is actually watching too much of The Crown, too much of things on the internet, reading too much about himself, and then actually believing that what he is reading is the truth, when he doesn't really remember what happened from his own experiences. Perhaps he is vicariously having, there is this thing where you can almost have like false memories, because you've read things or you've seen photographs of things. It's almost like your brain puts them in your mind. I don't know what the technical name of that is, but I know that that is a thing. Perhaps Harry is experiencing that as well. McLaughlin says Meg ghosted both sides of her family, then got Harry to ghost his and his friends, and military country pure evil. Now, of course, we can't say for sure whether that's true or not. Pure speculation, you know, pure speculation. But all I can say is he's had a lot of trauma, and I think what happened to his mother is where it's all stemmed from. JD says, if they wanted privacy, why are they making media rounds? Meghan is behind all this. I mean, okay. I think I don't think it was that they wanted privacy. I think it's that they wanted control. I think it's a control issue. They wanted to control exactly what was being said about them. And of course, in a free press society, um, you can't control what they say about you. Bearing in mind, being a royal is not the same as being a celebrity. Celebrities like, the goddess Beyonce can come out and put out records and do projects and be very visible when she wants to be, and then when she's not, she can kind of sink away into the background, be very private. When you are a member of the royal family in Britain, you can't do that. You are on 24/7. There is no kind of shrinking away period. Yes, they have occasions where they can have holidays, um, you know, private holidays within the time. There are, the 6 weeks of the year in the summer, there's Christmas, Easter. There are certain points in the royal year that royals take time off to have that kind of relaxing time. Um, but no, I don't think it was about privacy, it was about control. Scott says, Her Majesty has never said anything against those boys, and to be attacked like that will hurt her deeply. That's another thing why I think his popularity has taken a nosedive, is that all of these things were done at a time when the Duke of Edinburgh was passing away, and then the Queen had obviously, a couple of years of really increasing ill health before she finally passed away. So, one can only speculate on what the Queen thought during her final years. Um, Witchy says, what's your thoughts on Harry always talking about some kind of special power or whatever it is they're doing? Like it's to do with Lady Diana's hair in a box. Right, well, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily weird to keep a memento of your mother like her hair. In fact, I think it was quite nice of Lady Sarah McCorquodale, one of Diana's sisters, to cut both boys a lock of her hair because, of course, they never got physically to say goodbye to her. Harry almost reveals in the book that, well, it indicates that he didn't get to see her body, for example. So he almost wanted a sense of um, closure or kind of something to signify that this actually happened. And that's kind of what he was seeking for a long time. That's why he wanted to see the photographs of the wreckage of the car with Diana in it. But to have something physical to be able to touch and bring out or smell, rub on their face, whatever they want to do with it, I actually think is quite nice. Perhaps it does bring them some comfort. But in terms of kind of thinking of of Meghan as being having some kind of power, some kind of mythical, magical power, and then almost linking that story of the sirens that Charles was telling at dinner to the experience of Meghan singing to the seals, it all very much it all very much indicates to me that he's looking for that mother figure. He's looking for characteristics that he sees or he remembers, even with his distorted memory, that he remembers of Diana to put onto somebody else. And I think that is what he's been trying to do. He's almost in his head making Meghan in the same mold of Diana. And of course, to everyone else looking in, Meghan is no Diana. I mean, in the same breath, I will say, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, is no Diana. There is no comparable. None of the royal wives that have come after Diana have had Diana's charisma, Diana's warmth, Diana's that sort of inner glow that just captivated everyone when she walked into a room, people that she'd never met around the world. There hasn't been another Diana since Diana. So for Harry to try and kind of put that on Meghan, again, I think it goes back to that childhood trauma. Everything links back to that childhood trauma. Chiming in says Harry can take comfort in the 150 million, or rumoured 150 million, because we don't know exactly, that he's made selling out his family. Carrie says they will run out of books and interviews and stories, so they better get proper jobs now. Well, I don't think we're going to be seeing Meghan working at the drive-through at McDonald's, or I don't know, Harry, I don't know, selling Christmas trees at Christmas. I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon. But like I said, there are plenty of very, normal kind of low-key-ish ways that Harry and Meghan can make money in the US without selling out the family. This is a choice. Make no mistake about it. He hasn't been forced to do this. That is his narrative being put out there. He hasn't been forced. This is a choice. James Medford says Catherine is more like the Queen Mother, a loyal support for her husband and children. Yes, she's a lot more stoic. And she did have warmth, she had pizzazz. Oh, thank you so much to Stephen, who has super chatted a $50 donation. Oh my goodness, and you sent me a little fox emoji as well. Thank you so much. Mwah. Thank you so much, Stephen, for always supporting. But yeah, Catherine is a bit more like the Queen Mother. She will be supporting, she will be a rock. Camilla is very much like the Queen Mother in the fact that she was a rock to George VI. Camilla is definitely a rock for King Charles, giving him that support, enabling him to be a really, really good king. Yes, thank you so much, Stephen. Nymph says, I was on the fence about what's the truth and what's a lie until you read the excerpt from his book about having an epidural and giving birth in the water. Oh yes, going back to yesterday's story, I read a passage from the book about the birth. I think it was supposed to be Archie's birth, and Harry wrote in the book that Meghan had an epidural and then indicated that she gave birth in a bath or had some kind of water birth. And I said at the time, I've never given birth. I don't really know the ins and outs of what you can do or what you can't do after you've had an epidural, and especially in relation to a water birth. So I said, moms, dads out there, people in medical professions, do let me know what your thoughts on this are. And people came back in droves, if you read the comments of my previous video, saying that it would be impossible to have an epidural and then be moved to a bathtub or to do anything in a bath or have a water birth. That it would be, that if you had an epidural, it would be a birth outside. So, yes, that was one extra inconsistency. Yes, Scott, I did. And I've already commented earlier in this video about where Harry was at the time of the Queen Mother's passing. But it certainly wasn't at Eton. Yes, and then apparently she walked out of the hospital after 2 hours. Yes, exactly. So, how long does it take for an epidural to wear off? Again, I don't know terribly too much about epidurals. I'm sure you can understand why. Okay, so I think that's possibly where we're going to leave today's chat. We have 283 people watching. Please, I will be back tomorrow, but I never know what time I'm going to come on and do a live chat. So it's really important, if you want to catch the live stream, to hit the like and the subscribe and have the notifications turned on, because if you don't have those on or you log out of YouTube, you won't get the notification. So I will come on. I'll probably do another live chat tomorrow. Oh, thank you very, very much, Queen of Kingsbury, who has donated $20, who says, thanks for being you. You are more than welcome. I do try to be as fair as possible. And I mean, a lot of people kind of, Harry and Meghan supporters who were on this channel back in the day have said, my goodness, you've changed, what's happened? Why have you changed? Blah, blah, blah. The simple answer is, I haven't changed. I'm not the one that's changed. Harry and Meghan have changed. What Harry and Meghan are doing now, as opposed to what they were doing when they first got together, before they made that decision to leave, is very, very different. All I am merely doing is commenting on what they are doing, what they are saying, what they are doing now. And that's all that I'm basing anything on. So again, thank you so, so much for supporting. I will be back doing another video very, very soon. In the comment section, if there's anything that you'd like me to talk about in future videos, do let me know. As soon as we have more royal news from other royals, I'm itching to talk about other royals. I'm itching to move away from Harry and Meghan, and talk about the working royals. So as soon as they get back to work, I will be talking about them. So thank you so, so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.